Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey.
I can't believe we're in the upper room here.
We are in an upper room in Texas.
Goodness, I feel holy.
I don't.
This is Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton. There is Mark Clifton sitting right there. Right across from him is Mark Hallock.
Hey guys, what's up? Good to see you as always.
I'm Dan Hurst, and we are in the hallowed halls in Dallas, in the upper room of. Where are we?
Well, we're in Irving, Texas, by the way.
Should we say the name of the church?
Sure, say the name of the
Plymouth Park Baptist Church, where Matt Hensley serves as the senior pastor.
See, we told you we would take this thing on the road.
That's right. Here we are.
So here we are. We thought, what's the most glamorous place in America we could go? And it's not Irving, Texas. But we're glad we're here anyway. So.
We are.
And thank you, Matt Hensley, for letting us use your building or renting it to us. I think he's renting it to us. But,
Big bucks.
Yeah, we're here.
As you get out the checkbook,
go.
Kyle. Okay, so today we're going to talk about something that this is going to be an awkward discussion, because there are a lot of times that are reasons that churches are needing revitalization, perhaps replanting. They're in situations that are very complicated from a staff point. And so Clifton came up with this great idea. Let's talk about ineffective staff members. I don't know why he brought that up, but
I don't know either. Hey, Vanderbloemen has a great article. By the way, I wish I had a name like Vanderbloemen.
That's a great name.
It would be great.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of John Mark Clifton.
Hey.
Anyway, Vanderbloemen has this wonderful article on, it's really great, how to handle an ineffective church staff member. Now, look, we can look at this in two ways. One is some of you listening to us have ineffective volunteer staff members, obviously. Most of who listen to this podcast are pastors of normative-sized churches. There's not many mega-church pastors that wake up every Thursday morning and say, can't wait to hear what Clifton's got to say. But a lot of you guys are in the situation I'm in, which is a normative-sized church. So either how to deal with ineffective volunteer staff, or, and I think this is really the sweet spot for our podcast, a lot of you guys listening to us may be bivocational, or you're single staff, but you have a part-time music leader, or a part-time secretary, or even a part-time janitor, right?
Yep, that's right.
Somebody your church pays a little bit of money to do something, and the one part-time person you have is more trouble than they're worth. I mean, it's a pain. And it's a huge issue, and especially, I would say, if you're a mega church pastor or a large church pastor, and you've got 5 staff, 10 staff, or 14, 20 staff, it's hard to fire one, but it's not as noticeable if you run 60 people, and it's you and a part-time youth leader, and you got to let him go.
Oh, man,
that is really, really tough.
Yeah.
So Mark Vanderbloemen talks to you about why do church leaders tend to hold on too long to ineffective staff. What are some of the reasons, Mr. Hallock?
Well, one that I think just right from the beginning is just the fact that they want to be kind. They're nice, right? We don't want to hurt people's feelings in the church.
Right.
And so I think one of the reasons is, man, how do you have that conversation? It's just easier to avoid it. It's easier to just, man, let's just maintain the peace, even though it is negatively affecting, honestly, the church and where we're going and what we're trying to do.
So many times I'll go sit down with the church and I'll talk to the pastor who needs revitalization. The first thing he says to me, man, I got a problem with my staff.
Yeah,
or I got
that's
a problem with this volunteer leader. And you think, how long have you had this?
Yep.
Well, it's been quite a while. And you've not brought it up? I got to work with him every day. My wife and his wife are friends. Our kids play together.
Yes.
I don't want to be the hard guy. I want to be nice. Secondly, he says, we can't ever find the right time. The timing is never right.
Yeah, right.
And there's never an ideal time to confront somebody, a staff member like this, or to have to terminate them. There's always something coming up in the church's schedule, right? Well, I can't do it right now because we're getting ready to go into VBS.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
so
do it
true.
right now because we're getting ready to go to summer. We're going to be down anyway. Or I can't do it right now because we're heading into the fall when everybody's coming back. I can't do it around Christmas. Oh, can't do it at all. I mean, there's always
something.
never a right
Yep.
season.
Well, another one is that everyone they love this person, right? Maybe this is a very kind, likable, and it's like, man, even though they're not very good at what they do,
Right.
we like them.
Oh, man,
you know?
there's a couple of things here. I remember my dad, as a pastor, used to always say, it doesn't matter who the staff person is. If they've been there for a while or the volunteer leader, there's somebody in the church that thinks they're great.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes a number of people. And, you sort of get this idea that if we let this person go, these people are going to be upset. And you get you weigh it and you go, well, is it worth to keep?
Yeah.
Is it worse to keep him here and keep these people happy,
Yep.
or to remove him and these people get upset? And you sort of weigh, and that's not the way to look at it. Obviously, the way to look at it is, we'll talk about that in a minute. What's best for him? What's best for the congregation? But we try to weigh those things, and it doesn't matter how ineffective a staff member can be. He can still attract friendships and people. I was an old American Baptist church consultant, but he used to talk about the fact that you could have a soccer player that everybody loves, and he's great on the sideline, he's great in the locker room, he's great in the community,
Yep.
but the guy's never scored a goal in his entire life,
Yeah.
right? And so eventually you got to say, it's about getting the ball into the back of the
yeah.
net. And if you can't get the ball into the back of the net, you can't be on the team. And so you can have a staff member that can do all kinds of great things and have great relationships in the church, but if he or she are not successful in what they're supposed to do, you have to deal about
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Let me two more real quick. One, they worry about the church's image.
Sure.
So, in other words, what would this say to the community? Like, if people hear about this,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So, living in the fear of man, honestly, sometimes versus doing the right thing. And then the last one I think we want to hit is they don't want to take the extra time. It takes work to rehire, right?
It does.
It takes time and energy.
I mean, he may be ineffective, but at least he's here.
At least he's here. He's showing up.
Or
He's doing something.
the devil you know, the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
How do you know the next person we get won't be a bigger problem?
Right.
And all of that, Hallock, is just a way we have of rationalizing why we're not doing what we know
That's right.
we're called to do.
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's right.
So what happens when we don't make those decisions? What happens to the church when we keep kicking that can down the road, when we don't deal with the ineffective volunteer, ineffective staff member? What are some of the things that happen?
Yeah, well, one thing is leadership can get distracted. It can. Quite frankly, I mean, I've dealt with this. You've dealt with this. I mean, we've lived this out before, and it's really hard to lead a church in a direction. And there's unity and there's excitement, and you've got this issue that everybody knows. It's in the room, and it can actually hinder kind of. It can sometimes quench the spirit of what God's doing and causes you instead to focus on periphery things versus the main stuff that God is doing.
As a pastor, it just drains you.
Yeah.
Because I got to come up every week. I got to work with this person that I know I should be dealing with, but I don't want to deal with them.
Exactly.
And what happens is if they're really ineffective, and this has happened in my life so many times, especially with volunteer leaders, rather than dealing with a volunteer leader or a custodian who's not doing his job, or a church secretary who's meddling into stuff and maybe gossiping or saying things she shouldn't say or not doing her job, I'll just avoid them. Okay? And so in avoiding them, I'm not providing leadership to them. I'm not providing leadership to the church. And we just avoid each other. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to be there when they are there. So it just distracts me as a leader from what I'm called to do.
Dude, here's another thing. And he mentions this in this article, team morale decreases. I mean, if you're on a team, and the other thing is, you lose respect from others as a leader. Oh, you do. Because everybody sees this.
Right.
And they're saying, does my pastor, do they have the courage to do this? Do they have the, because it takes guts. It takes kindness, but it takes courage to deal with difficult situations. And if you don't, it affects everybody else.
Right.
It affects morale. And Satan loves to use that
He does.
to bring, to become the focus. Man, if we could just get rid of it, you know what I'm saying? So it affects team morale. It affects I think the culture of the church. It can.
Well, you also have a responsibility as a leader to that one particular person.
That's right. That's right.
You know, you have to make them better.
Exactly.
And it may be that making them better means finding them a different place to go, or encouraging them to find a different pattern or a different walk.
That's right.
And so, you have a responsibility to them also.
You know, in our we use the language, and I don't know where this is. It might be Patrick Lencioni or something, but we talk about whether you're hiring staff or working with volunteers. There's two big questions. One, is this person the right person to get on the bus? Okay, the bus representing the particular ministry or whatever. If it's a yes, well, then the question is, what seat on the bus do they need to sit in to help this team thrive, right? So the question here is, okay, is this an issue of, no, we want them on the team. We want them on the bus. They're the right person on the bus. We just have them in the wrong seat. In other words, wrong role. Or, quite frankly, should they not be on the bus? Does that make sense?
Analogy. I love that analogy.
Yeah, it really is a good analogy. And so we'll put this, again, in the show notes. This is a great article every pastor really should have in your briefcase of articles, because we all are going to deal with this. And I think most of us, especially normative-sized churches, we just don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset things. We'll end up putting up with an ineffective leader far longer than we should, and it never ends well. I remember, again, I owe a lot to Tom Rayner and his insight, and I started this podcast working with him when he was still president at Lifeway, and I remember him telling me one time, I never regretted when I had to make the tough call about somebody terminating. He said, I never felt like I did it too soon. I always felt like I did it too late. And it got worse rather than better for all of us, for the individual and for the organization. And I've never forgotten that. Yet all of us will, again, it's never the right time. We want to be kind. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to have a bad image in the community. All of those kinds of things. But we can't do that. So what should good leaders do?
Wow, yeah.
First, I would say, obviously, try to fix what's wrong before just sometimes we don't want to do the heavy work of trying to make somebody better in their job, trying to give them clear direction.
Yep.
We just would like them to behave right and work right. And if they don't, well, then we can complain about it. But you've got to look at yourself and say, if this individual, this secretary, this church custodian, this music leader, if they're not functioning well, do they know what I want from them?
That's right.
Do they know what's
Exactly.
expected of them?
Yep.
And do they have clarity in that?
And am I coaching them
Yes.
toward success in those things?
Exactly. Or is the fact that they don't doing well and I ignore them and I don't want to be in the same room with them and I don't want to talk to them, it's just going to make it
That's
worse.
right. That's right.
Again, I can't remember the guy's name. I'll try to look it up. But he had an influence on me. I just can't remember his name. The old American Baptist church consultant. And when he would go in to a church that needed help like this, he would suggest to the pastor, look, why don't you tell this staff member, give them exact instructions of what it means to get the ball in the net. I mean, this is what it means. This is what we're looking for. And I tell you what, it's like preseason football right now. We're not keeping score. So you've got 6 months, right? And for 6 months, we're going to see how you do, but we're not going to keep score, right? But after 6 months, we are going to keep score. After 6 months, these things are going to have to happen. And if they don't happen, then after 6 months of that, we're going to have to make a change. And he said that kind of clarity, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, and say, look, we're going to give you some on-ramp here. It's going to take some time for you to make some adjustments, but there'll come a time when we're going to say, okay, now we're in regular season, and now we're going to hold you accountable.
Play ball,
Yeah. And, when I was younger, I was not particularly easy to coach. I know you'll find that hard to believe. I always felt like I knew more than my superiors. And I had a boss. People who listen to this podcast know who Peck Lindsay is. And, Peck had me when I was in my 30s, so that was a tough time for anybody to try to be around me. And he was my boss. He was a state exec in Kansas, Nebraska. And I was a state missions director. And there were times that Peck would come in my office, and he would just sit on my desk, and he would say, all right, Clifton, if you're going to stay working here, these are the things you're going to have to do, and this is the time frame, and they're going to have to be accomplished. And I kind of needed that kind of clarity, right? And it got my attention, and it made me a better person.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
we want to do this because it makes them a better person. But you've got to provide coaching and feedback before you let them
Can
go.
I say something to that? And this is something that we do in our church and learned early on. This would be my encouragement. If you are sitting there going, man, this is exactly what I'm dealing with right now, as a staff person, it's not the ideal. Well, listen, you can't just let them go, probably. I mean, that's probably not the wise way. But here's what I would offer. I would say, one, you need to be intentional in helping them to set some specific goals. That's step one. Let's meet with them, talk with them. Let's talk about what casting vision of this position. Let's set some goals together, what we'd like to see happen. And as the pastor, you help them shape that. If they're like, I don't know what goals I should have, help shape that over the next, let's say the next 3 to 6 months. I prefer to go quarterly, every 3 months. And then during those 3 months, you're meeting once a week for an hour. And you're looking and you're evaluating goals. How are we doing here? Give feedback along the way. Here, man, wins. I see you're doing great here. Here's some areas maybe we could, but you're coaching them. They feel loved by you, right? You're moving in this direction. At the end of 6 months, you really evaluate and say, look, you know what? There's this one area that you've struggled with over and over. And that's okay. We all have areas where we struggle. I want to help develop a growth plan for you specifically to grow in this area. And it could be whatever. If it's leadership development, if it's a worship position, organization, communication, whatever. And I want to see us develop this, and I want to see you act on this, right? Continuing to meet, continuing to consider goals the next 6 months, looking at that growth plan. The point is, you've now got something objective that you have been trying to coach them. You've been trying to help them out, think through goals, a growth plan. It might be that, man, this is just a dud. It's just not going to go anywhere. It's just not going to work. But now with integrity, see, you can say, hey, look, we really did try to take appropriate steps to help this person grow, to work into this position. It's just not worked out. We love them. We know that God has a great plan for them and has gifted them, but this isn't it. And this is why we have to move on. Well, now you've done it the right way to help. It's still hard. It's still difficult. But I would say before the Lord, you've not only honored God, you've honored this person. You've helped the church to see that you've taken the right steps. Because if you don't do that, you could lose trust very quickly. So again, be wise in this. Have goals, and then make that a regular thing, man. Every year, annual goals. We talk about it, present it. Those things, it's more than just, hey, I need to see you do this, do it. And if you don't do it, we're going to have to let you go. This is saying, man, I want to first fight to help you. It's the same thing we do in revitalization with everybody in our church. I hope our posture is not, man, we got to get that guy out of here. Right. It's, man, how can I make this work? Like, it's a different posture.
So when we get to the place we know we've got to do something, first and foremost, make the expectations clear, provide ongoing coaching and feedback. Again, come back around and check again for clarity of expectations. Do you really understand this is what we want you to do? Check for capacity. Can this person actually do this? Yeah. Are you asking a church janitor to do something that he just doesn't have the physical ability to do? You're asking a musician to do something they can't do. And I would also say, if you've got a personnel committee, at some point you got to bring them into this, obviously, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. And then you're just going to have an honest conversation at some point with this person about their capacity to do what you're asking them to do. Not their capacity to be in ministry, their capacity to be a believer, but the capacity to do these particular tasks in this particular place at this particular time. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, you may even need to consult with an objective third party. Yeah. There may be some interpersonal stuff going on between you and this person. That's right. And it's really clogging your brain, and it's messing up with your decision making. Yeah. So that's where maybe having a personnel committee or a deacon or someone else you trust, or even a director of associational missions, and saying, hey, can you maybe look at this situation with me and make sure I'm seeing this correctly? But at the end of the day, if that person's not functioning in that role, it's not good for them. It's not good for the church. It's not good for you. It's not good for the kingdom. And guys, your job as an appointed and anointed under shepherd of the church of Jesus is to guard for the church, not take care of a staff member. And sometimes that's really hard things to do. But ultimately, you will benefit from it. But boys, I tell you, I'm thinking of some guys. I don't want to name them because they fired a bunch of people. But there's Mark and I have worked with some larger churches that were at one time several thousand in attendance, Dan, and had come down to well less than 1,000. I mean, in the single hundreds, like 400 or 500. I know that sounds huge, but when you were 5,000 and you're at 400, that's an issue. When you got this huge building, and I know. Every single time the revitalizing pastor has come in there, one of the things he's had to do is terminate some staff. Right, Mark?
Yeah, that's true.
I remember one guy said, we only had one service a week, one Sunday morning service. We didn't have two services. And he said, on Monday morning, he said, I'd be in the office at 8. He said, our paid staff he said they would sort of stumble in around 9:45. And he's like, hey, everybody else in our church is getting up going to work Monday morning. Yeah. And so he set some specific goals, and they didn't want to deal with it. Right. And he had to let them go, and it caused a lot of heartache in the church. But now, years later, he's got the right team doing the right things, and the church is thriving. And those people he let go are really in a better ministry place than they would have been. Yeah. But he had to do those hard things.
It's that pruning, right?
It is.
It's pruning. It's hard. It's painful.
Right.
But it needs to be done.
But this is one podcast I don't want Kevin Ezell listening to. I don't want him pruning me or giving. I just, hey Kevin, I don't listen to this too well. All right, I don't want my boss listening to this.
We should actually give out Kevin's phone number here, just in case. Hey, thank you all so much for. I hope this has been really helpful for you. While Hallock and Clifton were talking, I was thinking of a pastorate that I had where, when I went to it, the church secretary was already in place, and she was several years older than I was. And there was an immediate conflict, and she had an opinion about everything, and I was struggling with that, and I just didn't know what to do. And I finally realized it was a personality issue, not a productivity issue. And so I had to approach it from the standpoint of how are our personalities going to mesh? When I finally brought that to the Lord and was able to differentiate between the conflict and the control that God had over it, and work on some specific issues, not just the whole, this is a problem, but what are the solutions? I worked on the solutions as opposed to working on the problems. She became the greatest secretary I've ever had in my life.
That's a great story.
That is.
And I love her. To this day, Nancy Turner is one of my favorite people in the world.
That's awesome.
Because I changed.
Yes.
She always was mouthy.
And
she never stopped.
Well, listen. But I think, Dan, that what's so good is I do think our posture should be we want to try to make it work.
Exactly.
That should be our starting point, and that's a great example. It doesn't always.
But we got to know when it's not going to work. Then we got to make it work.
That's right.
And what isn't working? It's not working.
Yeah.
It isn't the problem.
Good point.
What is it?
Yeah.
That isn't working. Okay.
Good
well, let's wrap that up. I know you guys have lots of comments. We'd love to hear those. In fact, if you go on our Facebook page, Revitalize and Replant, Facebook, you can actually leave comments. We love that.
Yes.
Unless they're really nasty. And we delete those.
We do.
But no, we'd love to hear from you. And if you have a way to contribute to that, to what we've said here, we would really appreciate that. Thank you to the North American Mission Board for making this possible. Thank you, Dr. Ezell, for allowing us to do this and for not firing Clifton yet.
Well, the day ain't over yet.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.